Hello and welcome to the Telegraph studio. I'm Alistair Greener and the subject we're discussing today is the role of systems in manufacturing transformation. And joining me is Cathie Hall from K3 Syspro. Good morning.
Good morning, Alistair.
So if you had to name the three biggest challenges that put pressure on manufacturers, what would they be?
The three biggest challenges are really making decisions, understanding product costing and integrating the supply chain.
So we'll come to the solutions in a moment if you don't mind, but I'd like to look back at the challenges. Could you tell us more about them, be a bit more specific, and also how they manifest themselves?
So imagine you've got a managing director, Monday mornings, full of the joys of spring, kind of skipping into the office, had a brilliant weekend, goes into a meeting with his team, and within a few minutes there's complete chaos. The team are arguing about what version of the truth. They've got lots of spreadsheets. Everyone's come with their own figures. It's not really making any sense. They spend 3 hours arguing over numbers and not actually making any decisions or really getting to grips with the business. Managing director leaves the meeting, kind of ties off, thrown in the door, growls at the reception. It's just ruined his day. And worse still, the business is no further forward. And that's quite typical of a lot of businesses, and manufacturing's no different. In terms of product costing, you've got a poor sort of production manager. He's sat there in his office, off the shop floor. The machines are all out there noisy. He's got spreadsheets galore. The financial director's asked him to prepare a report to try and understand the product, how they're costing against their competitors, where those costs are coming from material, labour, overhead. And he's just staring at a blank sheet of paper, doesn't know what to put down there because there's lots of information but very little structure. And then when we look at integrating the supply chain, it's always the salespeople that start this off, and the poor supply chain managers taking the call from the salesman who said, oh, well, I've agreed this with the customer and we'll send this information and we'll do this and we'll automate this and we'll integrate that. And he's thinking, well, how can I do that? I can't even get my suppliers to put a barcode on a box. And then they're sort of quite typical in manufacturing.
And probably something that's going to be familiar to many people. But let's go through that step by step through all of those challenges. And then if we have to make changes to our process and methods, what do we actually have to do?
If I had to group everything together and look at a common process for working through any of these types of challenges, you need to consider the people, the process, and the systems. It's no good doing one for the other. So if we look at some examples of how that might work. In terms of decision enablement, you can have all the best reports in the world, all the best information, you can have a fantastic process in terms of meeting and expected outcomes, but you need people who are empowered to make those decisions, confident to make those decisions. So then when the MD goes into the meeting, he sort of, we've got one set of information, everyone's agreed on those numbers, and the people there can really start to talk about the business, can talk about the manufacturing challenges, and can make some decisions and leave that meeting with a concrete plan of action. If we look at product costing, it's all about the systems. You've got good people who can interpret the information. There's a process to go through, but you need a good system there. So you need a system that's collecting the information about the overheads, that's collecting all the different costs. If you can understand your material cost versus the cost of perhaps bringing it into the country. So you might have a higher material cost from a local supplier, but it means you can keep less inventory. Does that benefit you overall, as opposed to bringing in material which might be cheaper, but you've got long lead times, it's coming across the water, you've got all kinds of additional costs in terms of transportation and duty and freight, and then you have to keep higher inventory because you've got a longer lead time. So you need to understand the system. And then if you look at things like integrating the supply chain, you've got to get the process right. It's no good putting an automated system over a process that isn't working. So you need that smooth flow of kind of boxes and dispatches through from your suppliers. They can arrive and be automatically scanned into the warehouse, straight on the shop floor, exactly where you need them, the system telling you that information. And then you need a good process to be able to pull the forecasts and the sales orders automatically from the customer, and working well with that customer, in a good relationship with that customer, so then when they want the goods, you can ship them straight out the door and get rid of all the administration and keep it nice and tightly integrated. But you know, for all of those, you have to bring together the people, the system, and the process.
Now, you've mentioned an awful lot there, and of course this is going to be a massive transformation for manufacturers. So how do you help them with that process of transformation?
Well, it's quite simple. There is a process that can be followed, and the starting point is to put together a project team. So we put people from K3 Syspro, we put people from the customer. If you're looking at things in the supply chain, you might also include suppliers and customers and even external consultants. And you're bringing those people together to form a team that can implement the solution. And then you're looking at putting objectives around that. So making sure it's very, very clear as part of the project what you're going to achieve and that there's measures against everything that you're going to achieve. And then it's a case of going into the workshops, working through the process, training people, making sure that the system's set up in the right way. So you might set up your Syspro to get the correct reports out, the dashboards properly, make sure people are entering the right information, you've got your integration in there, and then you prototype it, test it, and deliver it. It's not difficult, there's a process to go through and it's tried and tested.
So as I said before, there's an awful lot involved here. So how long does it actually take to implement these changes?
Well, depends on your starting point. If you've got a good system and you've got a good solid set of people and processes, it can take weeks to add these refinements, you know, not very long at all. But if you really want to reap the rewards of these type of solutions in your manufacturing transformation, then you need to consider a longer term view. So really it shouldn't be considered as a one-off project, but more a way of running your business that you're continually improving and continually realigning your process, your systems and your people to make sure that you're maximising the potential benefits from your solutions in manufacturing.
So you've talked about the long term, so let's do that. What are the sort of trends that we should be looking at in the future?
Well, manufacturing's really exciting at the moment, and there's things like robotisation, additive manufacture, 3D printing, they're all coming together, Internet of Things, big data, and they're all becoming much more accessible to every manufacturer, you know, no longer in the realm of just the biggest manufacturers in the world, but now everyone can take advantage of them. And Syspro as a solution is right at the heart of that and can be a real catalyst to looking at some of those longer term trends and putting them into action now.
Well, you've certainly opened our eyes to the role of systems in manufacturing transformation. Cathie Hall from K3 Syspro, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.